This morning we're going to talk about what the ultimate goal of A Course in Miracles is, which is our returning home to the place that we never left. We're told in the text that we are awake in God, dreaming of exile. That state of being awake in God is home. And the very end of the text, in that glorious final vision of Jesus, says, and we are home where you, meaning God, we are home where you would have us be. Well, there's nobody who, in this world, whether they're students of the Course or not, or they believe in God or not, who would not say on some level, yes, of course they want to return home. And the beginning of Lesson 182 talks about how this world is not our home. I'll be still an instant and go home is the title of the lesson. Lesson 181, I'm sorry. And where Jesus says, after describing the state of alienation that we all feel in this world, that there's nobody here who doesn't know about that. And on some level doesn't recognize that being in this world is being in a state of exile. So every one of us yearns to go home. But when this Course offers us this splendid means of achieving this glorious end, what do? We run like hell the other way. Right? The Course says the means to return home, the means to awaken from the dream, is to give up judgment. All right? It's not to justify our judgments, not to justify our attack thoughts, not to seek for causes for our problems, mental and physical, in things that are outside of us. And so we end up doing, of course, exactly the opposite. We still make judgments, so if we don't make quite the overt judgments we used to make about people in the world, we certainly make them more subtly about other Course in Miracles students, or Course in Miracles teachers, or the Course itself, and we find ourselves in a perpetual state of judgment. And as Jesus explains in one very, very trenchant passage, if you want the goal, why don't you accept the means I'm giving you to achieve that goal? In other words, why do you persist in not forgiving? Why do you persist in choosing a grievance instead of a miracle? Why do you persist in choosing the ego instead of me as your teacher? And this is not meant to instill guilt in us or reinforce guilt in us. It's simply meant to point out how ambivalent we are about going home. My wife Gloria, many years ago in an academy class, this is while we were still in Roscoe, gave her class an assignment, or as an exercise in class, said, what if each of you had in front of you a button, and all you had to do is press the button and you would accept the atonement, awaken from the dream, and be home? How many would do it? And of course, not a single person said, I would press that button. And that's the honest answer. As long as we identify with our physical, psychological self, with the name that we think is ours, and a history, a body of history that we believe is our life, and anticipated future, etc., we're not going to welcome a Course that says, simply do what I say and you will awaken from the dream and return home. The fear is too great. The fear of love is too great. Right? The fear of redemption section is a very crucial section in the text that says, your fear is not of crucifixion, your real terror is of redemption. We all welcome crucifixion. That's why our lives are filled with crucifixions. We're filled with suffering, and we love to inflict suffering on other people that we feel have it coming to them. It's the redemption. It's the undoing of the guilt. It's the fear. It's the love that we're so afraid of. Because as that section points out, if we really accepted that love, we would leap into our Father's arms, and the love and the world that we have made so real, that we are such an intimate part of, would disappear, which it would. So what's very helpful as students of A Course in Miracles is to be aware of how terrified we are of love, how terrified we are of returning home. As awful as this place is, and as awful as the rotted prison, as the Course says, that we call this body, this engine of destruction, as awful as all that is, it is our home. It is familiar, and we're perversely and strangely comfortable in it. And when in the presence of love, or any symbol of love, we cringe in terror, run like hell, and quickly mount a whole series of defenses against it, through attack, through avoidance, through proving the Course wrong. What do you mean I'm not a body, I'm free? I'm a body, I am sick. Hurry, call the doctor quick. Helen, Bill, and I made up once. That was the ego's answer. So I'm not a body, I'm free, I'm still as God created me. Right? But that's what we do. I'm a body, I am sick. Hurry, call the doctor quick. But that's how we live, whether we're talking about a physical ailment or an emotional problem. We always want there to be problems as a defense against the fact that we're terrified of going home. And what's helpful is to be able to look at this without judgment. That's the crucial thing. Look at the ego and our decisions for guilt and pain and hate and anxiety and depression, and look at that and say, this is a defense against the love that would take me home. This is a defense against a process of forgiveness that would clear the ego, clear the decks in my mind, cleanse my mind of all ego thoughts, and would help me awaken from the dream. And be aware there's a part of me that wants to return home, and there's a part of me that is terrified. And we don't have to resolve that conflict. We simply have to look at them both side by side, bringing the darkness to the light, bringing our fear of returning home to our desperate yearning to return home. And then trust that the love that is in our right minds would heal that division, undo that dissociation, and then we would joyously and with great gladness return home where God would have us be.